The Simone Feiler Podcast, giving authors a platform. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello there, I'm Simone Feiler. Welcome to the podcast. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by Kelly-Anne Kerley, author of Breaking Up With My Wheelchair. Kelly-Anne's incredible journey of resilience and recovery after a life-changing accident. She got hit by a car on her bike. Nothing short of a miracle and incredibly inspiring. In her book and now her audiobook, self-narrated fabulously by the author herself, Kelly shares her personal story of overcoming adversity, embracing a new normal. You talk about that a lot in your book. And today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into her journey, the lessons that she's learned, and how she's empowering others to be their best selves. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Simone. Great to be here.
Awesome to have you here. So, obviously it's been a monumental journey. When did this all happen? When were you hit by the car?
13th of May 2020, so peak of COVID. Most people were probably working from home by then, as I was, and headed out to meet my friend, head to Manly and have a coffee, and as the book talks about, we were going to watch the sunrise, and I never saw the sunrise that day.
Well, you've seen the sunrise in a different way now, really, haven't you, because of your recovery?
Correct, yes.
So can you let us know the exact moment where you realised that your life was going to change forever?
There's probably not one distinct moment because I don't remember that morning or the impact or anything until I woke up in ICU 6 days later. I couldn't actually talk. I was disorientated because I had a tube down my throat, but I didn't really comprehend the enormity or severity of anything for months later. I truly say, even to this day, my brain protected me because I still don't remember that day.
Right.
So,
do you remember the lead up and everything to it, or you don't even remember the impact?
I remember the morning and meeting my friend, and that's pretty much it.
Wow.
I lost at least 6 days of my life. As I said, waking up in ICU and seeing my mother, who lives in Adelaide, just like, what's going on? And you can't ask because of the obstruction.
It was harrowing for your mother as well, obviously.
It was, and I'm hoping that's the unique part of my book, and for readers and for anyone going through trauma or anything whereby they need to understand the positive things that your support network can do for you. And even though us as patients may not articulate it, everything that you do is actually really making a big difference. Having my mum there was unreal.
I think it was one of your strengths, I guess, having your mum there, because she was like a backbone almost, you know. Didn't even realise it herself as such, did she?
No, and living in Adelaide and getting a phone call was not ideal, but thankfully my brother received that initial phone call, and my mum, being a school teacher, was in class, so he went to get her and let her know, and she couldn't get to me for 2 days, which is heartbreaking. You've got a daughter, I'm sure you'd...
I could imagine that would be the worst thing ever, especially knowing that how severe it was and that you were in hospital and pretty much unconscious.
So, and my mum was amazing, but it's also, I talk about my cheerleaders, so all of my friends, and it makes you actually realise how amazing your friends are, because I would say 9 out of 10 of those that not that I think about it, but when I reflect on it, that would be there. They were all there.
So tell us how you got into cycling and the earlier backstory.
Cycling came to me.
That's your boyfriend, basically, isn't it? Your love.
That's my love. So I got into cycling after a relationship breakdown probably, 10 years ago. And I met Carol, actually, is who I'm staying with up here in Brisbane. I met her at another friend's party and we just started chatting, and I had like a mountain bike that I used to ride around, and she's like, oh, well, you should come out with us. And it just happened from there. And then I had to get a road bike like everyone else so I could do longer distances, and it just progressed. And so that became my new social network. Met so many people So many different adventures out on the open road. It was just unreal.
Obviously, you've gone through everything to now be riding your bike again. There's obviously some determination that you've got deep inside you to, climb that monster, if you like, to come back out the other end. But tell us in the beginning when you woke up after those 6 days and realised that you're in ICU and this has gone down, that, you first thought how you're going to overcome this.
As I said before, my brain protected me for a long time, and I didn't really understand the enormity of it. I just did what I was told to do, because I guess that's the way I'm programmed in the beginning. And there is no real comprehension because of things going on. And those first 6 days were just indescribable, and I've still blanks in my memory, and I write about that in the book. I'd love to go on and tell you about the first wiggle of my toe or other things like that, but I still don't have a recollection of that. I remember my first night out of ICU. I distinctly remember that, just because of the pain I was in, and being confined into a small space with curtains around me. And that was really hard for me mentally, because being such a outdoors lover, seeing just my new environment as 4 curtains is just
harrowing.
Yeah, just get me out of here, leave the curtains open. So that kind of stuff I remember. Probably took me, I want to say 4 or 5 weeks before I actually broke down. My mum got really sick after seeing her, every day. For her then not to come in and see me for about 10 days, that broke my heart. And that's when I rang her one night and I just cried, and I'm like, well, why? And obviously want to make sure she's okay. Yeah. I probably get emotional about it now, but she was so thin and frail, and she was sick. She apparently had what's called broken heart syndrome.
Wow.
And we initially just thought it was COVID or she had a flu or something. And yes, I didn't see her for 10 days, and that was probably when the enormity of things kicked in.
That's absolutely full on.
Yeah.
And it would have been for her as well. Did she know what she was going through? Did she realise?
I'm really not sure. Even reading her diary, which when I started on this journey to write my book, I asked her for, it doesn't, it does say in there about, she's sick and how does she help me and that kind of stuff. But you just keep going, because that's how you get through it. I talk about 1 foot in front of the other and just tackle each day, and I guess that's kind of how I've lived my life, because you don't know what's going to happen, and you have to appreciate it.
I've realised that very recently as well, just quietly. You can probably see I went on a holiday with my daughters who were turning 18 and 21. We'd planned this for 3 years. My baby one was turning 18. We did that in London, and my twins have turned 21, and we went to Dublin because their birthday's on St Patrick's Day. But the day before I got diagnosed that I had a spot of cancer on my lip. That was, it wasn't the basal one, the next one, I blocked that out already. But anyway, it grew, and then I got home and then had to get it cut out. So I'm dealing with this, and I said to you that this is probably going to be a good return podcast, because what you've been through is so monumental compared to me getting my lip cut, because during the accident, obviously, your whole body, and in particular your facial injuries, were just off the scale, basically. But you can't tell now. You're gorgeous. So tell us a little bit about that, and how, or when that was, when you first thought, oh my God.
So it was probably, my accident was May. My mother's birthday was July 26th, and they're away from home and their family. And first of all, you look fine. You're recovering well. So sorry to hear it wasn't great, but and everything is relative, right? That's crap for you. What I went through is crap for me. I don't think there's ever any comparison. So here's to healthy healing.
Thank you.
It was my mother's birthday, and I'm like, what can I do to make it special? By then I was walking, I was able to move around. And so I got Mum to bring me in some clothes, because I was living in trackies and old long sleeve tops. And for me and my face injuries, it was all about my identity. And, you know, we attach that to what we look like.
Yeah, yep.
I remember trying to put earrings in, and that was a challenge because of my hands, the numbness and the tingling and just lack of dexterity. That was my first challenge, trying to put jeans on, drew the zipper up, massive, it was horrible.
Wow.
Trying to put mascara on and just looking at my face, you know, it was still quite droopy and big scar on my eye, and I didn't look like me. So yeah, it was a huge thing about identity for me, and that was probably my, like, looking in the mirror. Probably the first time I'd properly looked in the mirror, and I think I got some mascara on and gloss, and that was it. It was just too hard. It took so much energy, and I didn't have energy.
Yeah. How long were you in the hospital all up?
92 days.
It was a long time.
I didn't write that in the book, and I'm kicking myself now. I think I wrote 3 months and 13 weeks and whatever, but no, it was 92 days.
And during COVID?
During COVID.
Like, you couldn't get a worse time to do that, really?
No, so my dad was downstairs, bless him. Mum was the only one allowed up to see me. So my boyfriend at the time handed over the baton to Mum. And yeah, she was the only one allowed up to see me, so...
Do you think it would have made a difference if it was any other time outside of COVID?
To my recovery,
yeah,
or
to
just
your
my
recovery?
time?
Because, I mean, obviously you were allowed minimal people in there, and, you know, you need support, like you were saying. That's a
Yeah.
very important thing.
Look, I think it's really hard to, you know, reflect, but, you know, I'm just fortunate Mum was allowed in.
Yeah.
Probably would have been better for her if Dad could have come up. I really don't know. They just managed the best they could. You know, friends still came to visit me once I was able to get in a wheelchair, which is probably another couple of days. I could go downstairs and see people. So I was really fortunate. I had a lot of visitors, and I just had to manage that around my physio. So it was usually around lunchtime people would pop in.
Yeah. So the book's called Breaking Up With My Wheelchair. I love the cover. We were just talking about it off air, and, like, just the scrumpling up of the paper and the rip. Very special, I reckon, the cover. And the audiobook cover as well, I love. But, you know, how did it come to pass? I mean, obviously you're sitting there in your wheelchair and thinking, I'm in my wheelchair now and I'm not on my bike.
Yeah.
So how did that spark come in you to say, I'm not doing this?
Again, I don't think, you're around your brain, I don't think it was a conscious decision to go, I'm not staying in the wheelchair. The ladies in the hospital would come around and be like, come on, who's coming to physio today? And, you know, that's just naturally what you did. I just thought, oh, well, I've got to go to physio. So I'm very thankful for my, I guess you could say, athletic background, and that, you know, I loved Pilates, I loved walking, I loved riding, I was always active. So I just went. It was more traumatising to actually think I had to get hoisted out of bed and into that wheelchair. It's not like I could swing my legs around the bed and get out. It was more, why can't I move anything? Do you know? So that the enormity of that point in time of having this hoist underneath me to actually pull me out and put me in a chair, it's just, and I couldn't even use my hands to wheel it for another couple of weeks. So, you know, Mum had to push me around. Yes, eventually upgraded to electronic one. My feeling came back in my left side faster than my right side. But it's, yeah, you know, the girls were great. A lot of it goes down to the physios and the encouragement. And you do it because you want to get better. So
it's interesting that you say that, you know, you just went with the motions, basically, that you weren't thinking, you know, okay, at that point, I'm not thinking about, I've got to get better and I've got to, you know, get out of this wheelchair. You just go through it with all that support helping you each step of the way. When was the point that you decided, oh my God, was there? Because I'm a bit like you, to be honest, that I don't actually foresee how you do it. You just go through, you know, you go through the motions. And you don't actually know exactly how you've done that. Would you say that you don't know how you did that? I
know how to do it. It was a lot of bloody hard work, excuse my French, but you want to get better. Like, it was my life, do you know? And my mum and my friends and that, they were all my cheerleaders, and I guess I wanted to make them proud of me. Do you know, my best friend and what she was going through, and the lady, Jackie, who I had the accident with. Do you know, it was just, I talk about I had my 42nd birthday in the hospital, and that was probably the bit of the iconic moment for me. And when I'd worked with the physios, I wanted to walk towards them for my birthday. And it was just like, okay, this is my goal now, do you know? So I just did as much as I possibly could in those physio sessions, and did all the exercises. And, you know, mum had done some, you know, on the ballet bars, some squats and things with me, and she kind of knew what my plan was, because my best friend Carla, Jackie, who I had the accident with, my mum, dad and my boyfriend at the time were all going to be there. And, you know, you go down the lift and the physios agreed to come with me. So one was standing next to me and the other one was wheeling my wheelchair. And it felt like eternity, but I wanted to walk towards them so they could see how well I was doing.
Aww.
Subconsciously, it wasn't about me. It was always about them.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe that's just how I am.
Yeah.
And I felt like I'd won a race, because I had walked, do you know, such a short distance, like probably from here to the corner of the room away, and it was just, you know,
Iconic.
it filled my cup.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And, you know, Mum was crying, and, you know, the others were crying, but yeah, so that was probably,
That's
you know, I can do this, you
Yeah.
know, I can make this happen.
That's a very pivotal point. And their encouragement, I can imagine, would be like, launching you onto the next stage, onto that next step.
And I have such a zest for life, you know, and it makes you appreciate more and more. And, you know, nothing's easy. But I didn't want to be wheelchair bound, and they never said I had to be. So, you know, you go through the motions, you do the hard work, and I still do.
Yeah. So what is life like for you now? You talk about it a lot. I said in the intro about your new normal. What is your new normal?
I actually struggled to really articulate what that looked like for me. And in my corporate work, I did a couple of events with a Paralympian named John McLean, and I had heard his story and was quite inspired by it at the time. And years later, when I had my accident, I ended up reaching out to him on LinkedIn, and he just lived around the next suburb from me. And I caught up with him, and we had a coffee and lunch, and it was just really nice to talk to someone that had experienced something similar to me, but was also quite passionate and driven to get better. So I know you talked about defining moments before, but this was probably a big one for me as well, because I couldn't articulate why I was so driven to do all these things to get better. Why was I working so hard? Yes, I wanted to get better, but I wanted to be normal.
Right.
I didn't want to be this person that, you know, had metal in my neck and had a brain injury and has a spinal cord injury. And, you know, the brain injury kept me foggy for a long time. So I knew things, but I couldn't really, you know, make the jigsaw puzzle, so to speak. All the pieces were there, but I couldn't make the puzzle to understand why I felt that way. So catching up with John a couple times was really pivotal to me, because he helped me articulate what it was. He didn't say about new normal, he languaged it differently. It is in the book. I can't recall exactly what it was now, but that's kind of the meaning behind it. And for me, I had to find what that was for me. You know, people talk about purpose. What was my new purpose now? You know, I didn't know what my identity was. I wasn't working full time. You know, and then eventually I broke up with my boyfriend. Like, what was my life? So all of those pieces for me was such a big challenge. You know, my parents went back to Adelaide. Do you know, I struggled to socialise, all of those things. And it was just a journey of discovering it. Being open and allowing myself to just have experiences and going, well, what do I want that to be? What does that look like? And that came through writing my book, and that came through just doing different things and talking to different people and listening to other people's podcasts.
Yeah.
And reading books. And so my psychologist was unreal. She got to know me so well.
Yeah.
And I still see her to this day, and might only be once every couple of months, but she just unpacks things. So I very fortunate I had all of those pieces of support, because if I didn't, I really wonder where I would have ended up.
Wow. Are you comfortable and satisfied with your new normal?
Oh, look, I'd love to do more, and that's why I'm really passionate now about how do I get my story out there. So I'm excited my book has launched. But for the most part, yeah. But like anyone, there's always more.
From the outside, there's nothing wrong with you. You're doing good.
That's the other thing, the unseen is as important as the seen. So whether it's a disability, it's not about the disability. Everyone has different abilities, So for me, no one would know I have permanent neuropathic damage in the entire right side of my body. I mean, I'm sitting here crossing my legs and uncrossing my legs. Everyone does that. Yeah. I put a long sleeve top on because of the cold aggravation in my right arm. So for me, my new normal, I do Pilates once a week. I try and ride my bike 3 times. I still have to do gym. Because of my spinal cord injury, your body's muscle memory is really poor.
Right.
So I have to constantly be doing some form of weights or activity to remain strong. And then obviously because of my age, I've got to worry about osteoporosis. So it's something that any normal, mid-40-year-old would do.
Yeah.
So I've now got the enormity of that stuff over the top. So it's care, you have to look after yourself.
Yeah.
So my nutrition is important. I don't drink so much these days. I have to rest because of my brain injury. I get quite fatigued.
Yeah.
So, yes, I do some part-time work. Would love to start doing some speaking gigs and, sharing my story more and giving people hope.
You've definitely got a good story there to tell.
Yeah.
So, you talk about wanting to help people. What sort of niche do you want to get in there? Helping people, in the hospital overcome their injuries, or mentally, giving them the strength to say, look, you can overcome it mentally?
I think there's a breadth of things that I can assist people with. For me, it was a big thing around changing your dialogue and that negative narrative. So
important.
Yeah, there's a lot, unfortunately, because of COVID around mental wellness. And through this process, I've partnered with Be Unstoppable, which is a charity and foundation that's actually helping people overcome a lot of that negativity and that dialogue, so their mental wellness is a lot more positive. So for me, I could have thought about what I was missing out on, what I didn't get to do. I was struggling to ride more than 20 kilometres, and you kind of spiral, but you have to switch that and go, well, actually, I'm lucky to be here.
Yeah.
It wasn't my time, and I actually am learning to get back on my bike, and I can walk.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to come out of this the way that I am, and there is a future and I can progress. So for me, that changing that narrative was huge.
Yeah, finding the things you're grateful for.
Yeah, and the story around that, I guess, people always say how powerful storytelling is. So, I just didn't get back on the bike like that. So there's a whole journey with doing that. And, that started with my psychologist identifying how important cycling was to me. I didn't go on getting back on the bike. So there's a talk about that journey in the book. So there's a whole narrative thing, and having a passion for a sport and something else, because of that passion, that's what drove me learning to ride again.
Yeah.
Cycling was such a huge part of my life.
Well, fitness in general has been a really huge part of your life, and probably instrumental to you recovering, to me, and from the outside so quickly. And I think even your mental capacity when you're doing sports as any type of sports or activities is you push yourself, you know what I mean? And that also helps your mental to be stronger.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably what helped me so much, was the ability, even when I had really bad down days. Yes, my support network and my best friend Carla was there all the time, so I'm really grateful for her. I could call her any time of the day, but it's the ability when you're spiraling and you have that negative dialogue and language to actually acknowledge it, have a cry, scream, shout, whatever you need to do. And I did that, but then you've got to come out of that, or else that negative space just gets darker and darker, and it's not good.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, it's encouraging people to have that moment, but how do they get out of that, and how much better is it for them to get out of that space? Because I with COVID, I went home to an apartment on my own. Yes, I had support. My parents had to go back to Adelaide. I had to manage life on my own. I wasn't living with my partner at the time. I still had to get to therapy. I still had to actually do that therapy, do grocery shopping, still cook for myself. I went from this safe environment in hospital where everything was done for me.
Yeah. To
out of hospital. So, days weren't great. But, I could choose to sink and have a, terrible life if I didn't choose to do the therapy, and my body probably would have just gave in.
So inspiring.
Or do that hard work, have that down day, definitely have the moments to be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
And have a quality of life, which now nearly 5 years on, I'm getting to. And, that's why I'm here. That's why I wrote my book. That's the message that I kind of want to share with people, that if you just try, there is hope.
Yeah.
If you don't try, you won't actually ever know.
Yeah. That's super inspiring, and super inspiring for me to hear right now, given what I've just told you that I've been through. But also, that you say that you can let yourself have those moments. It's hard to have those moments to recognise that, like, okay, it's not the best, but you can go beyond this. You don't need to think, I'm going down this hole and that's the end of me.
Yeah.
Regardless of what your situation is, like you're living proof that you can go through getting hit by a car, go through all of that and come around out the other side, and now want to, help people to realise that they can do the same. And there's so many different people on different levels where, like you mentioned a bit earlier, where, it mightn't seem like much to you, but to the next person it is a lot for them to recover. So you have to, say to yourself, whatever I'm going through is a lot for me, but I can get through that.
Yeah, and there was people that did encourage me in hospital, which was actually really quite nice. Everyone had their own, obviously, thing happening for them. I didn't have too much to do with them because I was so focused on myself. I just didn't have the mental capacity.
Yeah,
but it was
surprised.
It was nice, other people, even though they were in chairs, watch me and go, oh my God, you're doing so well, because they would see the progress as well, and then they would try a little bit harder.
How good's that?
So, there's those nice things. And even my friends, if they're having a bad day or whatever, I'm always the first one to just sit and listen. So, yeah, there definitely is hope, and it's being curious and asking different things about what's going on for you and inquiring, because doctors and nurses don't necessarily always have the right answer.
Yeah, that's very interesting as well. Do you want to elaborate on that?
I don't want to elaborate on that. There's a big...
I saw that look.
Yeah, no, there's just a big piece in my book about, obviously, different things were happening for me. And when I left hospital, I had a really tight left side of my chest, and I just kept exploring it because no one could tell me what it was or why it was there. I thought it could have been because of the breathing tube. Was it my body twisted when I hit the car? What was it? And I ended up having breathing examinations. I had so many things. I did exercises for it to try and open up my ribs. I paid for other therapies, like people may or may not have heard of Feldenkrais. I had structural integration therapy. There was ladies called an Interex thing, like electric stimulation, and I just couldn't shift this pain. I just felt like someone constantly had their boot on my chest. So it's great, but if you don't ask questions, you're not sharing what's going on for you. You can't actually explore and try and find answers. And I think that's one of the other key things for me. I was always curious and I was stubborn. Well, hang on, if not that, what else? What else is there? Who do I need to go see next? And actually it was probably just a huge piece of trauma and stress, because financially for me it was over 3 years before my case actually settled outside of court.
Right.
And that was when I started to get a sense of lightness.
Yeah.
And that started to shift. Every now and again it will tighten up a bit, but for the most part it lifted. So it was a trauma thing.
Yeah, incredible. You're incredible. The fact that you've got through everything, physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, financially, like to be where you are today. You are definitely in a position to talk to people and help them get through it as well. So congratulations. And then in the midst of it all, writing a book.
Yep.
And then narrating the book.
And riding my bike again.
Yeah, that's the
And
most
still
incredible
riding
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ride this morning, or you said yesterday?
It was yesterday. Yeah, rode yesterday.
Like, flew up to Queensland from New South Wales to have a chat with me on the podcast. Thank you so much. I'm glad you can be here in person. We had a few issues with the recording, obviously getting pushed back a week or so because, a long story, the guy Esper in Sydney, the studio closed down or something went awry there. And me coming over from overseas, I haven't actually had a chance to listen to the book, so it's in editing at the moment. But I'm really looking forward to hearing it, and it's kind of a little bit back to front, having a chat with you about it, prior to me listening to it. But it's given me some inspiration to listen to it. It already had before we started, the process. So tell me a little bit about the process. How was narrating your audiobook for you? How did you find it compared to writing it?
It's interesting when you actually read it out loud. It's actually so different. So, I mean, look, I wrote the book probably over a year ago now. And yeah, it just reminds me how far I've come. Like, it's so surreal that I remember it, but it's like I let it go, and writing that book was such a release for me, and maybe a way of me actually letting go a bit of that trauma,
Yeah.
But no, it was great. I had a good two mornings with Esper, and yeah, it's good to actually put it in my voice, and it'll be great to hear it once it's together, because you've got another lady to narrate the bits and pieces
of my
mum's diary that's
Sarah.
integrated into it. So. And that's the other thing. I just thought it was such a good way of bringing it to life and telling a story, because there's some humour in it.
Yeah.
And there's some sad pieces in it.
Yeah.
But collectively, I think it's a great story. And, yeah, like I said, really want to give people hope. And, my key line of, you never know how strong you are until being strong is your only option.
Yeah.
Not my line. Randomly, Bob Marley. Don't know how I found a Bob Marley quote, but it came to me. And yeah, bad things unfortunately happen to us, and it's how we let them, I say, define me, destroy me, or strengthen me.
Yeah.
How do you make yourself stronger because of it and learn from it and keep going forward?
Well, this hasn't defined you, clearly. Well, it has to some degree, because now you're even bigger and better, that you can help people get through probably a lot more than what you could have helped them with prior to this accident, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Silver lining?
Silver lining, God, I learned a few things, that's for sure. There's a lot of personal growth. And yeah, how do I now turn all of that without, it doesn't define me, but it's a big part of who I am. Yeah. That story is who I am. And yeah, how do I, again, turn that around to become a strength and just help people, because unfortunately, there's too much sadness and things in life, that just don't go right. So how do I, make my positive impact now and impart my knowledge and learning onto others?
Why did you write the book in the first place, Kelly-Anne? Was it for you so it could be cathartic and you could let it go, or did you think about maybe it would help people? What was the reason?
It all began when I thought I would return to work. So my full-time role prior to my accident was educating students. So I used to design and implement graduate programs on a national level.
Wow.
So the nurturing and coaching was always a normal thing for me.
Yeah.
And I went to see a vocational lady, and I'm like, how do I tell my network I've been absent from industry without going, hey, I was hit by a car, and all this stuff happened. So I met a peer support person, and that was someone that was in a wheelchair, and we just started talking, and I'm like, I want to tell my story. And I got hit by a car, and I'd kind of had said breaking up with my wheelchair because I had left it behind when I had changed rooms in the hospital. And then he's like, yeah, write that. So it just kind of stemmed from that. And so I wrote an article, if anyone looks on my LinkedIn, it's probably 2 years old now. And that's how I told industry I had been absent. Because a lot of what I had done before was, in social networks and things like that. So I just wrote this big article, and yeah, hey, I got hit by a car, this happened, and I've learnt to ride again, and that was my announcement. And then writing the book just stemmed from there.
All right. So that was your idea to just elaborate on it all, or
Yeah.
yeah,
It was mine. Yeah, I just went, I reckon I'll write a story. I'll write a book. I've got so much to tell. And, Mum had her diary and helped me fill in some gaps. And which is funny because I was never a writer. I got comms people to do that stuff. I never did that. And
well, from the bits and pieces I've heard and looked at prior to you going into narrate, you definitely are a writer. I mean,
I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
I'm a storyteller.
You do it very well. And in your own voice as well, like I have listened to bits and pieces and you can hear your emotion, you can hear your conviction. I couldn't imagine anyone else reading it apart from you.
I was also very fortunate because of my spinal cord injury and brain injury, working within that hospital space and, again, understanding what's available to me. Forward ability support, who I've mentioned in the back of my book and thank them. You can apply for scholarships to help you, I guess, either return to work or get a computer or do a course or something like that. And so I applied for one of their scholarships, and because I wanted to do like a writing course or boot camp. And again, another one of my awesome friends, Bex, she's my cheerleader. Her name of her business is actually Cheerleader of Change. She sent me this writing boot camp, who is Deborah Fay.
Yeah.
The Authorpreneurs boot camp. Yeah, so I was fortunate to get the scholarship, and so I joined her boot camp, which is perfect for me. It was once a fortnight, so I had some level of accountability. I did my blueprint of what would my book look like, so I mapped it out. And so, yeah, I had that really nice kind of network and gave myself the year to write the book, and it gave me something to do. So it was kind of, how it all eventuated from there. And, yeah, it was really nice journey to do it. And, even talking about finding love again, because I broke up with my boyfriend.
Yeah, tell us about that.
They're all journeys, and even that's not easy. It's not easy at the best of times, let alone when you've had such a huge thing happen to you.
Yeah. Are you still friends or?
Look, I think if he called me, we would both answer and chat, but we weren't on the same page.
What's in the past is better there, right?
Yeah. Look, and, there's no need to be too rude to people, and I wouldn't be, because he was awesome throughout my hospital stay and
so
my
you're
family.
Available?
No. I met Adrian 2 years ago now, just over 2 years ago. I talk about that in the book too. Just even dating. I think, God, with a disability, it's harder to date, let alone when you're normal.
Right.
But what is normal these days, hey?
Nothing.
Yeah.
A cycle on a washing machine. Trish Goddard used to say that on TV many years ago when I lived in England. That's the only normal now.
Yeah.
It makes sense though, right?
Yeah, it is. Just because, that's why I said the unseen is as important as the seen. No one knows what's going on for anyone these days, right? But no, I met him about just over 2 years ago. I live with him now. It's fun. Oh. We're adults. He's got an 18-year-old daughter who's lovely. And, normal relationships, but...
do you ride your bikes together?
No, he's not a cyclist.
Isn't that interesting?
No. Doesn't like it too much. I text him every day when I get home, so he knows I'm safe. Aww. He has picked me up once or twice because I haven't made it home. But no, it's good, but it was hard.
Yeah. Do you think about, like, when you're out on your bike, about, not about going through it again? Like, are you more cautious?
I'm definitely cautious. I've had a couple of falls. I write about one in there. That was quite soon after when I went out on the open road. I've had another one since the book. It is just about being careful. And when I actually launched the book a couple of weeks ago, I then went riding the next day, and it was definitely front of mind there. I'm like, until I get hit today, I've literally just launched my book. Oh. That's my legacy. That's it. So it is always there. And, I pick and choose who I ride with because of that.
Right. Okay.
I'm very cautious who I cycle behind. You've got to watch that wheel because it's about them as much as it's about me. So allowing for the gap and just being really safe and yeah, so many things. But, it's what I love. Do I sit at home and be unhappy and...
No. Pine for it? No.
Yeah, you just get out there.
Imagine that, being hit by a car and then on your bike and then getting on your bike and like saying, this is not going to stop me. You're incredible. So what are you doing now? I mean, obviously you've written your book, you've done your audiobook. Hopefully it'll be out in the next 4 to 6 weeks, your audiobook. But your book is online and ready to, for people to read. What are you doing now? Has it left a bit of a hole? Well, you're probably still in the throes a little bit because you've only just had your launch. But
yeah, I did do some work last year. I've been working with New South Wales Health for the last couple of years on a casual basis. So that's really great because it helps me tell my story to doctors and nurses. We're called lived experience educators. So, it's how do we take our experience and I guess change the way they learn and think about patient care.
Oh, that's it. How good's that? There's so many levels to this.
So, it's about being an advocate as well. And, some people don't have a voice when they're in hospital. So it's just getting them to think a bit differently. So I'm doing some work with them. Obviously, I did my book. I did some other part-time work last year. So I will be looking for some more work in the next for the rest of this year. So as I said, hoping to do some more speaking engagements. But I actually believe that, organically things will actually happen within that space. Maybe I'll go back and do some talks at the hospitals. But first of all, Adrian and I are going overseas.
Nice one.
Haven't been in quite a while. Yeah. So
I've just been. It's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm really excited.
Belfast was my favourite. That's my new Belfast shirt.
Cool.
I loved it. We went to see the Giant's Causeway. Oh, incredible. Just the landscape, the culture over there. I loved it.
But it's all about living, right? It's all about experiences. So that's a big part for me. And Jackie, the lady that was with me at the time of my accident, has just moved to London about 6 months ago.
Right.
So that's a big catalyst. I want to go see her, support her, see her new life, see how she's settling in. And then, I've always wanted to go to the Cinque Terre. So there's other bits and pieces in between. And
exciting.
It's part of life. I want to do things. So it's our first overseas trip together. So it'll be super exciting. It'll be fun.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure you'll have a blast while you're over there. And if you're cycling, we had amazing weather while we were there. I hope the weather is as good as what it was for us over there because you're going to love cycling in that weather. It was amazing.
Fortunately, there's no cycling. Hopefully that will be next year. That's on my agenda for next year.
All right.
I think Jackie has 2 bikes, so maybe I might get a sneaky one in London, but don't know, we'll see. But no, it's about...
Take it easy.
Yeah,
not in London.
Trips with him.
There's a lot of traffic there. More than there was many years ago. So how can people contact you? Obviously, people might be listening that want to engage you to do some public speaking for them or to speak to people that, that they think will benefit from hearing your story, or people that just want to contact you and find out more about you and how to, you can help them to get through things.
Sure. So there's 2 ways. So you go directly to my website. So it's Kelly-Anne-Kerley.com. So there's a form there you can fill out, get in touch that way, or message me on LinkedIn.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for doing your audiobook with me. I'm looking forward to hearing it once it's done, hopefully not too far away, and for chatting with me on the podcast before I've actually read it, and for coming up to Brisbane and talking with me. I really appreciate it, Kelly-Anne.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, and thanks for making it a great journey. And to everyone out there, if there's something that's happening for you, get in touch, and there really is hope if you just try.
Thanks again, Kelly. You're awesome.
That's okay.
And please remember to like the video, share the video so you can get Kelly-Anne's story out there. Obviously, there's a lot of people going through all sorts of different trials and tribulations, and if Kelly can break up with her wheelchair and get to riding again after being hit by a car, she's the girl that can help, motivate you or your friends or anyone that you know to get on that right path, as it were. So like, subscribe, and thank you for listening to the Simone Feiler Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for joining the Simone Feiler Podcast.
What's your story?
Contact Simone for a chat at brisbaneaudiobookproduction.com.